Chris being the first, and Lisa and Megan and Kristen and Cindy Walsh was another one, but they all started this pilot program, started right here in Arizona, and so Chris led the way on that. Then it was dating, and there's a bunch of us couples around that, you know, everyone was dating and then everyone paired off and got married. Chris became the fastest Young Life intern to become an area director, and he was named area director. He went to Central Phoenix for his internship, became an area director in Northwest Valley, right after you guys have been married, correct? Right before. So he spent time out in the Northwest Valley, grew that area out there. You know, I can attest he was always very good in the marketing and building clubs and building community, and him and Lisa both were great at having people at their house and just building an area. And they were just, their gift is hospitality, whatever you call it, strategery. They both were really good at it. They had a lot of young people, they had a lot of great leaders in their area. And Lisa, remember, was an intern too, so this isn't just about Chris. They teamed up, they made an incredible marriage team in ministry, and they rocked it out there in the Northwest Valley. Then it was time for Chris. He wanted to do something in business, so he took a few years off. But this is what's cool about that. Both of them, they moved here to Central Phoenix, and they immediately jumped on a team with Julie and I at Ingleside, and we did Ingleside Wildlife together for 2 years. And those were 2 years where the kids came over. Julie watched the Eaton and the Schiller kids, and we went and did club together, and we have some just amazing memories from those few years in club. And Chris got the itch to get back in, and Lisa and him decided to go in, went back to Central Phoenix, and were area directors there. Again, Lisa was just an incredible piece of that too. It wasn't just Chris. They both did an amazing job with that, and that really put him to the point where he went into the regional job. So had these great assignments. I mean, my take, and I want you to hear this from me, through that was we got married, we went to each other's, and we were in each other's weddings. We all had kids at the same time. But both Julie and I have gone through medical things and cancer. Chris and Lisa were the first ones to jump on a plane and come out and see us, and they were great about it. And we went and had a really fun weekend, and they walked us through that. You know, both of them have been there for my parents and both their funerals. And so this is just a guy that we've gotten to do this incredible ministry together, but we've gotten to do life together too, and it's been awesome. He really has been a trailblazer. Like I said, he started off with that internship program, and every bit along the way he had vision, he had leadership, he led people that wanted to follow him. And so that made him a candidate for the regional job, and Davey is going to talk about that time. Yeah.
I have the easy part. I get to talk about really Chris's accomplishments as a regional director. So first of all, I think he's my brother. I love him, and I'm super proud of what he's accomplished as a regional director. And I think the board is a testament of his leadership, and the staff, Rick, Leanne, Daniel, Kelsey, there's one other, Aaron. Yeah, you guys are, I mean, what a great staff. And just hearing Rick talk about the condition of the region and the staff that's in place, and you guys too, so, sorry. I'm just, you know, the region's in great shape, and I was very happy to hear that. So I just think, you know, Chris's leadership and his vision is extraordinary, very high level. I want to list some of the accomplishments that Chris has made. So when he inherited the region, it was a little bit stagnant, and finances were tough, and the area was struggling in some ways. And I think through Chris's leadership and vision, I think Arizona's become one of the top performing regions in the country. So at least that's what I'm saying right now. So. It's Arizona, Houston, Seattle. Those are the great.
Don't anyone Google it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just remember Chris had to come in and take care of some pretty sticky situations, and he did it with candor and grace, and dealt with it head on. And got some stuff resolved, and so in his tenure, the region is like doubled in size. I mean, I know Chris is always wanting to double in 2 years, but over your tenure, maybe 7 or 8 years, we've at least doubled in size. Chris developed a dashboard for all the areas and coached underperforming areas to get in the black. And happy to hear, Aaron told me today, and I heard it again, that there's only 2 regions kind of in, or 2 accounts that are kind of in deficit a little bit. So you've left the region in super good financial shape, and you are a fundraising machine. And that's obviously one of the bigger parts of the job. So Chris and Lance really had an initiative to reach small towns. So through their leadership, they've started functioning Young Life area in Sedona, Payson, Yuma, Kingman, Pinetop, Sholo, and probably I'm missing a couple other ones, but so Brett, you talked about reaching small towns, and Chris and Lance have really done a great job doing that. And Chris worked with Daniel and nurtured the Metro Phoenix area, and it's really like a shining star for the Arizona region, is our Metro Phoenix ministry and the staff people that we have there. Pioneered the neighborhood ministry, or neighborhoods, and I think that's something that's going to stick and go. Chris is not afraid to try new things. Everybody remember the $3.99 one price camp? I thought it was a brilliant idea. It didn't really work, but you were always wanting to stick your neck out and try new things.
Would have worked.
I think it would. Corporate. Do it again.
I killed it. I'm here. Great to be here. So good to be here.
Bring it back.
And Chris, you guys remember a couple years ago, Chris pioneered and really, started the all-staff retreat for Arizona, and they had nearly like 1,000 people at the Marriott, and that was phenomenal. It was like bold, risky, and he stuck his neck out. It was a ton of work. I know Aaron was overwhelmed. But you guys pulled it
I was
off.
gonna say, it still is.
Where's Aaron? Oh, there's him.
So I just say, through vision and passion, Chris was always striving to reach the next kid. Sorry. The next high school, the next junior high. Remote areas, special needs kids, teen moms. I mean, you were always pushing the initiative to reach the next kid. And I think you live by the same, we're all about Jesus Christ. That's what and that's all we're all about. And that's Chris.
Thanks.
Chris, serving with you at the regional level in life has been one of the joys of my life. I'm really grateful for it. I'm going to miss it a bit. We'll continue serving and doing life together, but I'm forever fondly back on this season. I have a couple little memories I want to share with everybody. When Chris started as regional director, we had a party at Chrissy Young's house. Some of you I know were there, and it was kind of a passing of the torch party, and I just remember being so excited for you, thinking about, that was 7 or 8 years ago, I think, and it's pretty awesome to look back and see what that was. Chris said often in his tenure to me personally, and he said it publicly, we're just stewards of this region, what God has given us. We didn't We didn't build it, just like our faith and our inheritance in Jesus Christ. We didn't earn it, we didn't make it, we're just stewards. We were handed it by the generation, but ultimately by the Lord and by the generation before us. And our job is just to steward it the best we can with the Lord's help and by His power, and then hand it on to the next generation. Chris, you've done that. You've been modeling that. And even as I see you hand it off, you're doing that with peace in the way that I know you believe it's really God's. Chris and I did a retreat early on where we wanted to just dream big for the region. I wanted to dream about the board. And so we went to Robert Johnson's ranch at the top of the world. We ate bad Mexican food. I think we should probably shot guns. We were driving to go to bad Mexican food, and he saw a high school over there. He said, Miami High School, we need to stop and we need to go pray for that high school, because your wife's not at Miami High School right now. We need to stop and go pray for that. And I'm like, yeah, but I was about to get a chimichanga, you know, so like, okay, we'll go pray for Miami High School. Here's a memory that's a sad one, but kind of beautiful in some ways. When Chris had to go to Flagstaff for a very uncomfortable meeting, I remember thinking, man, I hope he has a wingman. So I said, Chris, you know, I'll go with you if you want. And he goes, that's awesome. I've already got a wingman. Someone was going with him. And I remember thinking, there's a line of men and women that I think would go with Chris into what I would imagine maybe was one of the hardest times as a regional director. And I just remember thinking, like, this is a stacked team. There's a line of people ready to go. They're great. I remember when Chris told me, we got a check today because someone died and wrote in their estate they want to give money to Young Life. And I don't think anybody knows who this person is. We're going to try and figure it out. Maybe we will, but they sent a 5 or 6 figure check to Young Life. And it was just kind of exciting and evidence of God's provision. And then I'll just remember a lot of key hiring decisions over the years, many of which were significant. One of my personal favorites was Hector Saucedo, that you were an advocate for him, and I'm just glad that he's on staff here. So, want to open it up. If you have a memory, something you'd like to encourage or share, or a story, this would be a great time to share.
Well, I'll share one, get it kicked off here. We had our all staff about a week or two ago with Arizona staff and had a little time of sharing. So this is something that I shared at that time, and I was even thinking about it more since that time. That a couple of things that I love, which Dave alluded to, which is all about Christ. And I just said, and I say tonight, that one thing that I've always loved about Chris, being around him, and I've really had the privilege the last 3 years to be with Chris in a lot of different situations, some messy ones and some good ones, and they're all good ultimately. The Lord's done a good work in it. But one thing I never, ever, ever have questioned is how much he wants really every kid to be reached, how much he wants every kid to know the hope in Christ, how he's passionate about it. And when he comes up with 10 different ideas at the next meeting or whatever, here's the thing is he's an idea guy, but every one of them is focused to go, how can we be more effective? How can we reach more kids? And I love that about him. And I was just thinking, and so we were going into a foundation meeting one time, and and this happened over and over, but one time outside the meeting, we're going in for a specific reason, but he goes, hey, just to let you know, these guys have a real heart for foster kid ministry. And you know, we don't have a foster kid ministry in Arizona. I think there'd only been one in like LA or something going at the time. So if the opportunity arises, we might talk to him about that or whatever. And said, okay, that's great. And I'm thinking like, no, we need to talk to him about what we're going in to talk about. And we went in, and I think we're in the meeting 5 minutes when Chris goes, you know, we're thinking about starting a foster kid ministry. And I was like, oh, this is classic Chris. And everyone around that table perked up. Like, oh, kind of, you know, he knew his audience, but not only did they perk up, one guy goes, and Chris goes, we have the person, we just need the money. And we had, and money like followed immediately to send that person to TCU for training with foster kid ministry to get certified, and it's going now. And the reality is things start moving very quickly because Chris goes, man, we have somebody, we need some money, we need to find out who has a heart for it. And I really feel like it's not that you just know it. Like there's certain things like that you just get and get people, and I had the privilege of being around you for that. Thank you.
Sounds like P.T. Barnum.
Oh my God.
I'll go quick. I have to leave in just a second. Not that I wouldn't want to be here the whole time, but I have campaigners.
Are you gonna live stream too?
You know, one of the things that I have appreciated about Chris from the very beginning when I got to know him is like, and those of you that know him well know this is true. Like everything that you do with Chris is fun. Like he has a lightness about him in terms of just enjoying things and making things fun. And you know, I've been in a ton of different situations where like I've laughed as hard as I've ever laughed. We did an assignment, Lisa was on it, we called it the assignment from hell. And it was the very first assignment at Lost Canyon when there were nothing paved, it was all mud. And Chris would do things like to make it fun, like he would sit up on the porch of his room and shoot the outhouse anytime you went in the outhouse to use the bathroom with a BB gun. You know, so you'd be in there and you'd hear bing, bing. Go out, there's Chris up there. We just, you know, everything that we've done together, we've had a lot of experiences together. We've had great times, and you know, but like it's not trivial. Like I think you see the spirituality behind having a lightness about you and having a joy about you, and it's one of the things I've appreciated about working with you. And Lisa, you know, I love you too. Like we've had great chances to do stuff together, and Lisa was a staff associate for me years, and I don't think we called them that then, but years ago in Scottsdale, and we just had great times of working together and serving the Lord. So I love you guys.
I love you. Rick married us too. And gave us counseling and sex advice.
Yes.
And there goes Rick Wilson.
Can't unsee it.
Wait, does Rick still do that?
Dave mentioned this, but Chris is an amazing visionary. But it's not just that. He went about figuring out how to get things accomplished. The area grew in the 7 years, from 3.3 million budget to over 6.7 million, from 24 areas to 35 really, not mamby-pamby areas, but healthy areas, and finished strong. I remember when he mentioned to me, hey, I have this $3.99 camp idea. He started, said, can you figure out the numbers and see if this can work? So it's been a lot of time in figuring that out, and actually the numbers did work. But I realized he stood up at the next meeting, and I realized he already is doing this, whether or not the numbers work. But the numbers work. Going, wait, you gotta wait until the numbers, until I show you the numbers. But again, a great visionary, a great man, and a lot of fun to work with. Thank you.
Val. Thanks, Val.
Hey, John, can I say something? I'd like to say something specifically to Lisa, because Lisa is on a group of women that once I got established in my job, which really was because of Chris's vision for how he wanted to transform the leadership of the region into a team of people. And so the job that was created for me was really because Chris had a vision for that in our region. One of my main focuses has always been partnership between men and women in our region, and I think Brent and Jen would both say Arizona is one of the healthiest regions in the country in terms of partnerships that we have, that we foster between men and women. That's largely because Chris created a role for someone to be able to fill that gap. But what is amazing about the two of them is we got to watch that modeled in the way that they led together. So a lot of you who know Lisa know that she's not jumping up to stand up front and talk, but she's a very wise counsel and a presence in every room. So Lisa sat on a group, we called ourselves the Ubuntu. We still call ourselves the Ubuntu Women, which Lisa has been a part of that ever since I got my job. And Lisa had a real strong heart for staff spouses. And a lot of you don't know this, but if you're married to someone who's on staff, it comes with a bunch of unique challenges in terms of being gone at night and crazy hours and gone on assignments and having to hold your family there. Lisa ran, every year we pulled all the staff spouses together, and they got an overnight that Lisa pretty much ran by herself, a little bit with Judy Wilson, of just counseling them and telling them this is what you can expect if you have a spouse that's on staff. And she held a Bible study for staff spouses so they could get together and they would feel supported, that family was part of our family. That we didn't just value people who were on staff, but we valued their kids and we valued their spouses too. So Lisa's been a huge part of that, and Lisa is the kind of person that you know, not a lot of people know exactly what she does, but I've said to her over the years, whatever capacity you can give me is what I'll take, right? So when Lisa can't make a meeting, I said, that's fine, that doesn't matter. When you can come, I will take whatever you can give me in any capacity that you can give me, because I know when Lisa stands up to speak, it's always wise and it's always valuable to the conversation. So I've loved working for Chris as my boss, and I've said a bunch of things at staff meetings, but I haven't really got a chance to say to you, Lisa, how much we've appreciated your partnership as a couple together in our region, how much you've modeled that health for our staff, and then Lisa, for you specifically, just so grateful for your voice on that team and for the way that you've like selflessly poured into the health of our staff and our families. So thank you very much for that.
So I'll give a unique perspective maybe. Chris and I and Brianna and Lisa, we've been hanging out for, I don't know, 17 years maybe, way back in the Central Phoenix days. But when I look at Chris's leadership, makes me think of this philosophy. A leader isn't to motivate people. What they're to do is to create an environment where motivated people can succeed. And my story around that is that I married into the Young Life family. Brianna was a club kid at Thunderbird and then was a leader in our early marriage. She would go off and do Young Life and come home and tell me stories. And she came home one night and we had started a family and she wasn't necessarily connecting with the young ladies the way that she wanted to. And I said, well, what else can we do? And she said, well, there's this thing committee. And the next thing I knew, we were having coffee with Chris at 7th Street Thunderbird to talk about joining his Central Phoenix committee. And for some reason in that conversation, I found myself at a meeting like 2 days later on a Saturday at the regional office to talk to somebody from home office about being the Taking Donors Seriously or the TDC chair. So I'd gone from not involved with Central Phoenix to being the TDC chair in the span of 3 days. And then eventually was having breakfast with John Coates at 6:30 a.m. at Wildflower to talk about monthly giving. And that was kind of my introduction to Young Life in the ministry. One of the things he said in that coffee meeting was, everyone that you meet with Young Life that's connected to the ministry is going to be fun. And they're going to love Jesus. And they're just going to want to do life together. And that's been true since that first meeting when we first met. So thank you for that, and thank you for the friendship over the years for Brianna and I.
Well, I was area director in Central Phoenix, and some people called me and said that there's this guy who's coming back from Westmont, and he is interested in doing the intern program. And they go, he's from the Eaton family. And I go, oh yeah. And they go, Chris Eaton. And I go, I don't know him. And so Chris and I had lunch, and what was great is I didn't know him. And when I met him, I really liked him right away because he's so dang likable. And so we brought him on as the intern in Central Phoenix. And so we would have weekly meetings, Chris and I, about, we decided that he would go to Central High. And we would have weekly meetings about him going and starting the ministry because we were restarting it. And so I met with Chris and I go, well, I think the first thing that you need to do is go and introduce yourself to some of the people that are there, like the principal and teachers or any inroads that we can get, because we need to get some inroads. And he goes, great, I'm on it. I go, good, okay, good. So we have the next week and I go, how's it going? Did you be able to get over to Central High? And he goes, yeah, I didn't get there yet. And I go, okay, do you think you can get there this week? And he goes, oh yeah, totally can get there this week. And then the next week I met him and I go, Chris, how's it going? Like meeting people? And he goes, yeah, I meant to do that. Like, I'm over here.
It was next day, it wasn't me.
Yeah. This is better. This is much better.
And as short as deliberation is on Chris's on things, like this is a very long deliberation to get Chris to go over to Central High. And I go, okay, Chris, you need to get in the car. we need to drive over to Central High. So he goes, what? And I go, right now, we're gonna drive over to Central High together. So he and I drove over to Central High, and then it started the ministry again, and got to be a part of that with him. And I loved getting to be with him in those times of your life. I want to tell you two memories that are one of my favorite. I've loved your leadership. We totally believe in who you are wherever you go. Whether it's Young Life or wherever you go, you're going to influence the kingdom for the better. That's the truth. Because you love Jesus and you love each other and you have a mind that wants to serve. So that's gonna be wherever you go. But two things. One was I was at a camp with you, and it was during one of the urban camps in December. And we walked in the back of the room, and it was literally filled with kids. I mean, there was not even an inch in the room. And I turned and I looked at you, and you couldn't have glowed anymore. And you go, isn't it the best? And I turned and I looked and I go, it is the best, Chris. And I felt like that represents how you did ministry all the time. Like you led that way, and then you look at something and you go, isn't that the best? Like not even taking credit, but just going, we get to be a part of this. And it's how you lead all the time. One of my favorite memories was I got to be helping you with that all-state leadership weekend. And we sat and talked a lot about all the different pieces of it. And so then to see the vision of it, because I love when reality comes to, I mean, there's some hard realities, but the reality of like that weekend, I remember I was standing at the bottom and, all the leaders were coming down the stairs, and it was just like a drove of people coming in. And I was like, we've been thinking and talking and planning and figuring out for so long on all these leaders coming. And it just was this cool picture. And I remember I ran into the giant, conference room, and you were standing talking to a man, and I was like, Chris, you have to come see this. Like, because I was just like, he's gonna so do that thing where he looks at it and goes, isn't that the best? And he goes, you felt a little like, it was a little awkward, and then you go, okay. And then we walked away, and I go, who was the guy you were talking to? And you go, that's Newt. And I go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I just took you from Newt? I'm so sorry. But here's what I loved about that is you went, that's better to go look at right now. And you just trusted me to go, you when I came in and said there's something really great, you gotta come see this, you were like, yeah, I'll come see that. So we love you, and we're so grateful for all the ways that you've influenced Young Life and the kingdom and how kids have come to Christ. So grateful for you.
Okay, I'll follow my wife. I met Chris, I think when he was in the 6th grade, and we were doing club at his parents' house, and he looked like a 6th grader. And so, but the next time I heard about him was when Renee said, there's this young man, and I think he's the guy to restart Central Phoenix. And the committee's not convinced, but I think there's something in him. I just see something in him. He wants something. He's foolish or courageous, or some combination. But and so that stepping into that role and her sense of going, there's something in him that's really right. And then when he was the area director, he'd ask us to come and speak at he was taking all of his leaders to Mexico and renting a big house down there. And he was setting it up with just like, he was piling on all these perks. And I go, Chris, what do you want to have happen with your leaders? And he goes, I want it to be awesome. I want it to be life-changing. I want everyone who isn't there to be really sad that they missed it. So whatever you have to do, whatever I can get you to do to make it that great, that's what I want. And I just told Renee, I like this guy. He wants it to be great. He's swinging for the fence. Right? And I go, hey, there's a lot of wild card stuff. He goes, yeah, just swing for the fence. Make it great. which every time I've done something with Chris, the benchmark is, can you make it great? Right? Our leaders are coming. When he was leading in Central Phoenix, and I did a leadership training, and he goes, Wooster, give us your best. These are our leaders, and he brought in tacos, and he kind of set it up, but he was always like, give us your best, right? I spoke at a banquet in Central Phoenix, and Renee was gone, and I'm colorblind. I got home, and I couldn't pick out the color of the shirt and the tie because she was gone, and so I grabbed a bunch of pants and shirts and ties, and remember this, Chris? And I was at the club downtown. We got married. We did our reception. University Club, right? And I got down there and I just had my stuff on, and I go, Eaton, come here. I go, I don't know what to wear. And he goes, Wooster, are you yanking my chain? Is this a bit? I go, no, I'm colorblind, and I don't know what goes, and Renee's out of town. And he goes, so you'll believe anything I tell you.
Yeah, see, that's true.
Right? And I saw this moment in the devious, like Chris does not want to miss an opportunity to mess with you. And I saw him going, good God, Wooster will put anything I want to tell you. And I could see the conflict in him. And I just go, like Eaton's really deciding right now, will it be more fun to humiliate him publicly or to raise money? And I could see it going on. He goes, you're going to believe anything I tell you. And I go, it's true. And I go, and this is your fundraiser. And he goes, all right. Wear this and this and this. And he goes, for the record, I'm denying this ever happened. Right? And I did. I don't know if it matched or not, but we pitched and we raised money for Central Phoenix. And I would tell you, in all my conversations with Chris, as he stepped into the regional role, I was a hearty Chris and Lisa fan stepping into the leadership of our region. And I think they brought the right vision, the right heart, the right energy, the right passion for the season of leadership that they provided, that he and Lisa are together in a real way, not just in a presentation way. And I think how you got Lisa to marry you is another reason I'm impressed. Way to go. Way above your pay grade. I'm a big believer in that. But they've served together, they've loved together, they've led together, and everything has been about following Christ hard and doing things well. Jim Rayburn said that the primary role of a leader is to lead. And Chris, you've led. And so thank you for that, and thank you, Lisa, for being with him in that. We've been blessed. We're big fans. We really appreciate it. And we believe in the next thing you're going to do too. So thank you.
We're going to take a 10-minute break to get desserts and drinks and a bathroom break, but meet back here. We'll finish up in a little bit. If you had something to say, you'll get one last. We'll squeeze a couple more in. We'll wrap together in a little bit. So.
And there was that launch dinner that launched your tenure here. And I remember whispering to Desiree that you know, the tagline at the time was "You were made for this," and I was like, the dude was just made for this. And you know, I had a front row seat to what you've done these 8 years. And the biggest thing I want you to take away from tonight is be proud forever. You know, when you're an old man, look back on this tenure and be proud, because you know, you led with, you know, you worked your fanny off, you were innovative, as everybody says, you're a risk taker, which is awesome. I hope the next person's also a risk taker. And you know, when I look back and I just think, gosh, if you could just somehow quantify the spiritual growth of all of us, of kids, of leaders, of a huge chunk of this state because of your leadership, that's something that you need to just have. Don't let the enemy mess with you on anything negative, okay? That's my charge for you, okay? If you'll do that. And then Jean wanted me to point out a couple of it with good bullet points. Because really, if you think about all the things, I mean, I look back, there were a team of 4 on the regional team when you started, and then it grew to 11. I mean, think about that. Jeez, you split the region geographically. You had a regional representation for women, for Young Lives, for Capernaum. allowing a lot more voices to be heard at the table. You launched and care deeply for the neighborhood initiatives. That's another thing I sure hope continues that you started. And that just, to me, that just, the care and concern for those communities that are just hard to fund. To me, that's one of the many legacies that you left behind. So do me a favor, always look positively on this time, okay? You done good.
Well, Chris and Lisa, on behalf of Karen and I, Karen was really sad that she couldn't come over for tonight, but we love you two so much. The minute, we've only really lived in the same neighborhood, no pun intended, with neighborhoods, but really the last 2+ years. And you guys know the Eatons. If you show up at the Eaton's house, it is like, well, it's like this house too. It's like, oh, I think I'm home. That's just the whole Eaton family. And with the 3 wonderful kids and the dogs, and even how that dogs thing happened on Christmas and the videos. I mean, everything is just the best with the Eatons. And to see Lisa, again, I would have loved to have seen you when you're in the local area because of how geography in an area in your home. I could only imagine how sweet that was. And then in the regional job, I don't know how all that, it's harder because everyone's everywhere. But when I would get to visit the Eatons, it was like just the best. And you're such a team. So the little skit, that was right here. That was funny, but there's a truth to how Lisa looks at Chris. Is like, oh, I just love you and I trust you. And Chris is just this, he's a puppy that I think he's Will right now. That's their son in an older body. Chris.
That's awesome.
Actually, you're Will.
I will miss his playfulness. Like sometimes I just like calling Chris because when he does that laugh, he's like, he does that little, and you're not even know what we're talking about, but he just goes there so fast. And I'm like, oh, the joy and the love of the Eatons and the joy of Chris Eaton. He has this playfulness side to him that is just fun. Like, who doesn't want to, like, I'll do anything with Eaton because it's more fun. And so I really think what John said in terms of these last 8 years, just celebrate. And it's a season. Celebrate this amazing season that you got to dream big and go crazy with ideas. And it's awesome. You're the right person at the right time for the right season in Arizona. And don't ever forget that. And the Lord led you out at His timing. That's a gift. It doesn't always work that way. But thank you for your faithfulness as a couple. And I think if we lived within 50 miles, we'd be friends with the Eatons we would be hanging out with the Eatons all the time. So love you both so much and grateful for you and thank you for just exactly who you are.
Thanks, brother.
You bet.
Okay, one last one. Right?
Well, I'm going to stand up because Leanne, I'm going to kind of piggyback wherever Leanne is. I feel like I'm Lance's wife, Susan, by the way, for y'all who don't know me. I just want to say thanks to Lisa first because as a staff wife, that is such an interesting place to be. You're kind of in the shadows sometimes. You don't always get to resolve things in your own mind. And Lisa just really has a heart for staff wives. And so I got to be on the receiving side of that. So thank you. And also thank you, Chris and Lisa, as a couple. Your unity is really evident. And that is so, it's important for any of us that are married. But in ministry, it's just super critical. And so it was really clear that y'all were in unity in your life, in your ministry, in your relationship with others. And it's just, so I just want to say thanks.
All right, we're going to close out. I'd like to say one last thing about Lisa, too. Lisa, your faith and your relationship with Jesus has been such an integral part of what God has done here. both for Chris, who he is, and his leadership, but I think what God has done in this region is amazing. It's one of the things we want to celebrate tonight. And your faith and your prayer and your closeness to Jesus has really been a beautiful part of that. Chris is really clear about that, just how much spiritual leadership and faith you bring. So we're thankful for you tonight, too. And the other thing you need to know is that Lisa is funnier than Chris and writes all of his material. When Chris says something funny, which sometimes happens, it happens a lot, it's because Lisa. She writes his best material.
Number one funny.
Yeah, number one funny.
And she also took about 10 initiatives off the table for every one that you guys saw.
She's good at editing.
Just keep it real.
She's good at editing. This is from our regional board to Chris. It says, Chris Eaton, Regional Director of Young Life Arizona, 2013 to 2020. At the bottom it says, with gratefulness from the regional board for your servant leadership and on behalf of kids and leaders who have been introduced to Jesus Christ and have grown in their faith. And we've got signatures of the board members here.
Thanks so much.
It's a little sticky.
Is that Scotty?
I don't know who did it.
Is it Scotty?
That was actually, was that directed at me?
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought he was asking me. I was like, I don't know.
No. The answer is no.
Okay.
Well, Chris and Lisa, Bob and I are crazy about the Eatons, you know that. Mom and Dad are some of our dear friends, and I remember you referenced being back at Chrissy's house when all this started, and I spoke that night, and I agree, hold your heads up. You both did an outstanding job of loving people, but mostly of loving Jesus.
Yeah.
And we're the beneficiaries, so God bless you.
We're going to close with prayer. Lisa, if you want to share how you want us to pray?
Oh, yeah, you guys, this has been so great, and just really honoring. One of the things I struggle with is feeling like I did a good job. So it's, I think I was telling Lisa, and I don't think I did a bad job, I don't have regrets, but I just, you see what could be, and you see out there, and it's just like, so this has been really, really a great gift to us, so thank you. And I do feel proud of what God has done and what's happened here. And heck, the region's doubled, right, Dave? Let's go with it.
Second largest in the nation.
Exactly.
So great.
Yeah, praying for us. I feel like such a good place we do of peace and hope, and just sort of like God has us, and the next thing's coming, but pray for the next thing. What's the next thing, So just pray for us for wisdom and clarity and the path. And I'm praying up to the edge of prosperity gospel. I want to just, whatever it is, be successful and have, I would love to, if it's business, and if it's self-employment, if it's something entrepreneurial, I want to be able to be really generous to this region and to the kingdom, and be useful to grow the kingdom. So anyway, love and appreciate you all. Thank you. It's been really an honor and a great privilege and great memory to serve with you all staff and board. I love this team. Not many have left this board, and we've stayed together. We've had a great time. So thank you for that. Lisa, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say just for our family, it's a big transition. This is, I think there a lot of the formative years with our kids has been in this community, and so I think they're they have sadness about that, and I think Caroline articulates it the most, like, this has been our family. And so just figuring out, what does it look like from here? So, but I think they're excited, and but that'll be a loss for our family, because I think it's felt like a team, you know, our little family doing this together. So, yeah, I think that we'd be united in whatever is next. Would be a great friend. So, and thank you. This has really been such a sweet night for us, and we're so grateful to everybody here, and really been a wonderful season of, it's felt like these are special years, like just in our life, in our marriage, and then as a family, like years that we won't forget. So, thank you.
Okay. If you want to come and put hands on Chris and Lisa as we pray, you can do that. If you want to hold your hand out, if you want to sit in your chair. But if you'd like to come join us, Mary and I will pray and close our eyes. Come join us if you'd like to.
I'm gonna stay. I'll just put my hand out.
Yes. Still the power.
Yes. Father, Isaiah said it the best. These have been plans formed long ago with perfect faithfulness. And so we say thank you. You are a good and generous God in giving Lisa and Chris to us. Thank you that we got to ride on their dreams. We got to pray and cry with them, celebrate their family, and walk closely behind you as Chris led us. So we pray a blessing on them as a couple in their marriage, over their 3 beautiful children, as they go through the loss of not having a summer assignment and other things, that you would fill in those blanks and bring around them people that would encourage them. And may they never forget how much they are loved by this group of people, but mostly Jesus. Just remind them that they were good and faithful servants for this season. We bless you. Amen.
Lord, we pray for Caroline, that you would help her to continue to become a woman who brings you great honor and guide your steps. We pray for Bill and Andrew, Father, that you will raise them up as men in this world, men of faith, humility, courage, that they would follow in their father's footstep in many ways, and in many ways may take paths even beyond or different than Chris's. Thank you for this family, Lord. We pray continued unity to Chris and Lisa's marriage as they venture into new territory, unknown territory. That you would be their guide and their light,